and welcome to Sustainability Simplified, your bi monthly dose of how to seamlessly build an action oriented, sustainable, and profitable business. We're also the official podcast for the Sustainability Council Network, an international network of sustainability enthusiasts, professionals, and entrepreneurs registered on sustainabilitycouncil.in. I am your host, Zitin, and today we'll be getting into conversation on a topic that has actually intrigued me personally for a very, very, very long time. And all the parents of toddlers out there, this one is especially for you. You will find out more as I welcome with me Ruchi Shaikh, who's the founder of Toyroom. Um, hmm, that must have given you a little bit of an idea as to what we're going to be talking about. But more from Ruchi. Welcome, Ruchi. It's wonderful to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zitin. So lovely to be on your show. Really love everything about what you do. So thank you so much for having me. I'm doing good. I
Thank
hope
you.
you're doing well.
Absolutely, doing very well. Thank you so much, and wonderful to have
Great.
you on the show. Likewise.
Thank you. Likewise.
Great, great. So, shall we dive in? Are you ready?
Sure. Absolutely.
Wonderful. So, could you first begin by sharing a little bit about brand Toy Room and how really the idea came about for you? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, Toy Room is really close to my heart. That's because the inspiration comes from my kids. So, like I think most mompreneurs would say, the kids are the biggest inspiration. For me, actually, what happened was I was never so much into the whole sustainability, aspect of life before I became a mother. And it was when I became a mother and I read like the babies are the biggest pollutants on the planet, and they the one. So I mean, I was very intrigued when I read that. So then I started reading and researching more, and then I realized the reason for that with all, basically a new life means more consumption, more diapers, and all of those things. And that kind of sparked an interest in me in this whole and that's where my journey with the whole sustainability bit started. But it was not something that was so much at my core even till a couple of years before we moved to Germany. So my husband had an assignment there, which is why we were living in Germany for about 2.5 3 years. And while there, I saw the difference in the way parents look at playtime for kids, right? Like here, it's something I wasn't really looking at as something developmental or something very important to my child's growth and development.
Yeah.
And it was just something very frivolous. Okay, while she's not doing anything important, she can just play.
Yeah.
That was the mindset I had. But I was really intrigued about how much importance people, there gave to play, which is what really inspired me to create this brand. Because when we were coming back to India, I said, I have to take this thought back with me and do something about this because it's so important. And we don't realize how important play is for kids. So I decided to, create this brand called Toy Room and go ahead with launching toys for kids, which are sustainable, gender neutral, and all these facets.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ruchi. Now, moving on to the
Absolutely.
next question, I want to pick on the last part of your previous response, where you mentioned that Toy Room is everything about creating toys which are sustainable. Now, what does that really
Right.
mean? To translate that into what your product line is, some examples for our viewers and listeners, that will be much helpful for them to understand the concept into, like, translate it into reality. Yeah, if you can
Right.
elaborate a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So, like I mentioned, we mainly have wooden toys. We also do have a small range in fabric, but I think wooden is the main medium. There was a slightly selfish reason more than sustainability to get into wooden. It's because it's the safest material that kids can mouth easily without really, having any harmful toxins getting into their system,
Yeah,
which is why I mainly went into it. But also, it is of course great for the environment because we're not, creating more plastic, and plastic is the primary
yeah,
material or medium in which toys were made. So, kind of moving away from that into something that's more sustainable and natural. I do have a couple of my products to show you if you'd
Yes.
like.
Yes.
This is one of our very popular products. This is my tea set.
Oh,
So it comes with this kettle, and it comes with this sugar bowl. It comes with two spoons and like this cup and saucer. So it's very popular in the whole pretend play
yeah.
tea range. And it's if you see, the colors are gender neutral. So it's also
Yeah.
great for, because if you really go look and you want to buy a tea set, be it any material, right, plastic or whatever, you won't find a color apart from pink for a tea set,
Ah, yeah.
which is again so stereotypical. So I wanted to break away from that and create
Yeah.
something that's more gender neutral, because hey, boys also drink tea, right? So why not have something that could also cater to them? And you'd be surprised to know there are so many boy moms that are actually, constantly pinging me and thanking me and saying thank you so much for creating it in these colors, because
Yeah.
we have no qualms in buying it in the pink, but it just feels so nice to have it in gender neutral colors, like it's really nice to have it. So, because sometimes, somebody will say, oh, but it's pink, so how come you play with it, and stuff like that. And anyway, it goes for girls too, so it doesn't matter. So I think just these small points that we take into consideration. We have a really nice range for Christmas as well. I'll show you the
Oh,
most popular Christmas toy we have. This is our
yes. I saw this
Christmas
on
tree.
social media. I saw this magnetic tree, right?
You did.
Yeah.
So the fun bit is that this is magnetic.
Yeah.
So you can, we keep telling our kids not to touch the ornaments on the Christmas tree. So this is one for them to, this is like revenge time for kids. So you
Yeah.
keep moving them around, and it comes with 24 ornaments. So you can also do like a little advent for them, give them one a day, like a countdown to Christmas or something like that.
Oh,
So
amazing.
yeah, so it's quite interesting, and this is like one of my best sellers in the Christmas range. I also have two or three other products, but this one's kind of the best seller.
Yeah.
um, so like I said, we are mainly into wood, but then we also look for other sustainable materials that can, go with that. So I'll show you this little thing that we have. It's another very popular toy among kids. It's a gardening tool set. So it comes with this watering can, and it comes with a rake and a spade and a shovel. I've just kept the shovel here, but
So,
so yeah, so this also is like a product that we have. So the thought behind it really was to create it in anything except for plastic, because it's not very easy to
yeah.
recycle, or and then typically the products that were made in plastic were also not very high quality. They were really harmful, because
Yeah.
at the toddler age, kids tend to mouth a lot of toys. So that's really harmful for them if they are really mouthing plastic products. So that was really the mindset, and that's the reason why we decided to choose wood as a medium.
Yeah.
That said, we do have some few, like you saw, we have metal in the gardening set, we have magnet
Yeah.
in the tree, in the Christmas tree. So, but these are all sustainable, natural materials, not plastic.
Right, absolutely. Fantastic. One thing that I'm sure some of the more conscious listeners and viewers might be thinking is like the wood. What type of wood is it? Is it sustainable? Is it artisanal? Is it from local areas? Is it taken from trees which are already kind of fallen? What is the actual source of that wood? If you can talk a little bit about that as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's a very pertinent question, and thank you for asking, because
Yeah,
I it's a question I get asked very often, that, but you're cutting down trees to make our toys, then how come it becomes so sustainable and all of that?
yeah,
So the point is, most of our products are made in rubber wood. Rubber wood has a shelf life, so after about 10 years, the rubber wood tree, between 5 to 10 years is the shelf life of a rubber wood tree. After
yeah,
that, it kind of dies, and then you have to sustainably reharvest it, and
yeah,
sow it again.
yeah,
So which is why we choose that as a medium. Apart from that, local to Karnataka, where we stay, I'm from Bangalore. So,
Yeah.
local to Karnataka, there is this place called Chanpatna, which is the wooden toy hub of India. Like, even from really ancient times, Chanpatna has been a place where they've been creating a lot of wooden items. There is a tree local to Chanpatna. It's called Hale wood. The local in the local language, it's called Hale wood,
Yeah.
and in English, we call it ivory because it's slightly whitish in color. So we call it
Right.
ivory wood. Again, ivory wood is such that it's a very short and small tree, and the shelf life of the tree is small. So what happens is it grows for a couple of years, say 3 or 4 years, and then it dies on its own. So then there is a lot and then it gets reharvested over and over again. It keeps, like, we use it for so many different materials, especially for toys. It's the most appropriate for toys because it's light in color, it's light in weight, and it is so it's not like we are you know cutting down a tree specifically to make
Yeah.
the products. We are
Yeah.
definitely using very local, very sustainable, and our processes are extremely sustainable as well because we work with local artisans, and
Yeah.
the artisans we work with are extremely sensitive because they know that it comes from this forest, and they have to preserve it, conserve it, grow it
Yeah.
again, because that's their livelihood, right?
Of
So
course.
we're extremely conscious about it. Our vendors, that is the artisans, the small local artisans we work with on this, are also extremely conscious. There are small things that, as a lay person, that I didn't know when I got into this. I got into this through my interest in child psychology and child development and
Yeah.
all of that. But when I speak to my vendors, they'll give me ideas. Like, for example, if I tell them that I want to make something circular, they'll be like, ma'am, can we not make this square? I'll give you an example. Like, I have this
Yeah.
product which is a sensory memory puzzle, right?
Yeah.
It's something like this, right? So
Yeah.
we wanted to make this. I wanted to make these into discs. So you have discs with a butterfly or with a
Mm-hmm.
it has different shapes. So there's a duck, there's a butterfly, and kids can just match it. It's a good first puzzle. It's
Yeah.
great for tracing and all of these things. So when I told them to make these discs, they told me, ma'am, why can't we make it square? Because when you make it a circle, we're wasting the sides. So can we
Ah.
not just, yeah, so we have a slab of wood. Can we not just make it into square? And I said, that's a great idea. I'd love to do that because why
Yeah.
waste those little pieces, right? So if
Yeah.
you'll see, most of our products have those straight edges and they're clean cuts and
Yeah.
not so rounded.
Yeah.
Uh, and it comes from this, that I don't want to waste it anyway. Even what the parts that are wasted, we use it for various things. Like, we'll make little beads out of them or stuff like
Yeah.
that. So there is barely any wastage, because if you work with the local community and the local artisans, they are extremely conscious of this, right? Because they don't want even a small bit getting wasted. They
Yeah.
want
And
to
it's
use
their
the
way of life.
entire thing.
I mean, yeah, it's
Right,
their way of life.
exactly. For them, it's a way of life.
Yeah.
So, even these small suggestions that come from them are so amazing. I mean, I really find it so enlightening. Like, now, whenever I design something, I'm like, okay, I don't want it to be circular in shape. I will keep it straight and clean so that there's no wastage.
Yeah.
We do have couple of products which are around. Like, we have this thing which is called a tree slice. It's typically the stems of the harley tree. We cut them up, and what happens is that part is very thin, and you can't use it for woodworking because they're very thin. So they typically are used as timber, or they get wasted. But we've incorporated it as a product where we are doing a little bit, we're selling it as an art and craft item, or we create Christmas
Yeah.
ornaments out of them because they're round in shape. So I think these little nuances, when you work very closely with the artisan community, they do come to you, and you can incorporate them in your design.
Absolutely. Right. Right. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ruchi. That was very, very insightful. Lots of
Thank
things
you.
to learn about. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Um,
I hope it
moving.
wasn't too heavy, but
No, it's fine.
great.
Yeah. Um, I mean, moving to the next question, I think that's really the crux of it, which is, we all know that building a business is not easy, especially a sustainable business, right? And then
Right.
when we talk of the childcare space, it becomes even more tough. Now,
Right.
if you can share a little bit with our listeners and viewers about what have been the challenges and opportunities that have come your way, really, while building the brand.
Sure. That's like opening a can of worms, but I'll just focus on a few. Uh, so I mean, we all know, right? It's really challenging to build a brand, to build a business. It is a challenge, especially when you are so focused on a certain factor, like say sustainability. It makes it even harder.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I'll divide it into two, like maybe the problems that I face on the vendor side or the developmental side or the production side, and the problem that face on the customer side, maybe.
yeah,
So,
sure.
on the vendor side, I'd say, my main challenge initially was after which I mean was actually getting people to trust me to actually make stuff for me, because they're like, who's this person who has no background, and she's coming and asking us to make some
Yeah,
things. And from there, building the rapport with them, trying to make them understand my point of view, and where they don't get it, then explaining to them why it is important to make sure the edges are very well rounded, why I keep focusing on the fact that it has to be very well finished. And
yeah,
how those points are very important for when you're making something like a kids product, because
yeah.
typically Chanpatna has made decorative toys. So from there to move to the child space was a little hard for them. But it did work out really well, and I share a great rapport with them now. The other thing that I struggled with was the packaging in which they would send the products to me, right? So typically it used to be plastic, and even despite telling them that I can't, I'm trying to build a sustainable business here, so it can't be made in plastic. It when we are making wooden toys, what's the point when you're wrapping it in plastic and sending it to me?
Of
And it was
course.
really hard to explain that to them. But I think now what they do is, most of, like for example, this tea set, right? They'd wrap each of these little things in a brown paper, or
Yeah,
newspaper or something, and send it to me. And
yeah,
but the main tray would go in a plastic, because they're sending it in bulk to me, so there has to
yeah,
be some kind of cushioning for the product, so it doesn't break, because otherwise it'll be fragile and it might break or something like that.
yeah,
What according to me has been a win-win situation is me understanding their point of view and being like, okay, fine. When they send it to me, they're not like shrink wrapping it or sealing it. So what happens is it just comes in a plain plastic, and I can just open it very simply, remove my product out, keep it aside, and then I stack them and I send them back. So the next time when they send me the same product, it's sent back in the same packaging, so that we're not generating more and more
yeah,
plastic or more and more waste. Because in some situations I do understand their point of view. It's really hard, because then they'll have so much of breakage, and there might be issues like that. So that's how we've been doing it. Like, I have a product which is 100 pieces of just wooden planks, right?
yeah,
So earlier they were packaging it in plastic in a shrink wrap. My first order came to me shrink wrapped, 100 pieces shrink wrapped. And then I said, what is the point of this? Like,
yeah,
I'm not putting this shrink wrap. So it's almost like, you know, what we call greenwashing, that I'll just remove it and put it in the box and send it. That's just, I mean, it doesn't feel right.
yeah,
So then I just take a box full of planks, and then I have somebody who will do the packaging for me. So they'll count the 100 pieces, put it into my packaging, my boxing, my bag, and we will send it out. So these are small little uh, you know insights we've got from this whole thing, and a way of working around it, trying to make it like a circular use of the plastic, or not using plastic at all, by just taking it in a bulk in a box, and then packaging it at our end, so that we aren't wasting any plastic here. So that's one way. That's one challenge I used to really struggle with, and it's not necessarily something that everybody would get, because they'd be like, oh, what's the big deal, kind of a thing. But I think this has also really helped so many of my vendors becoming conscious, because now I see them also using, even like when they have other orders or whatever, they're using a lot of waste paper to wrap. They're trying their best, because they see
yeah,
that they're already doing it for one brand, might as well do it for the others as well. So I
Yeah,
really like that about this whole thing. The other big challenge I'd say I face on the consumer side is, I mean, it's not really related to sustainability, but I feel like, generally my customers are the more conscious people who are interested in buying products which are safe for kids, which are good for kids. And they'd probably, if I come in contact with them somehow after a couple of months, or if they catch me at an event or something, they'll always make it a point to tell me, hey, I bought this and it was so great. I loved it. My child really loves to play with it. It was so nice. And then I always tell them that, I wish you could help me by just, spreading the word by,
yeah,
because, as a small business, we really thrive on word of mouth. So,
got
dropping a review or just sharing it with people, or also just sharing it with me so I could, whatever, screenshot it and share it on my socials or whatever. So I think
yeah,
that's one thing we struggle with, because we spend so much effort, time, and money trying to acquire customers. But when you have customers who really like your product, but they don't, think about it being so important to you. So when I tell them that, they're like, oh, it, never clicked me. Of course, I would love to review your product. Of course, I would like to tell my friends about it. But it's just something that doesn't come naturally to them. So I think that's one thing I struggle with as well.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I think it can be very challenging, and when, especially when consumers are consumers, right? They themselves may not have had experience in running a small
Right.
enterprise, so they may not understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they
Exactly.
may not understand that perspective. But I guess that's what the podcast is also for, right? So
Yes.
hoping that this podcast
Hopefully.
will reach more mothers, fathers, new parents,
Right.
and they'll kind of see the value in this. So amazing. So that actually brings us to the kind of the end of the episode. Thanks for
Great.
sharing all that. It was
Thank you,
wonderful.
Zitin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was wonderful to have you. And one thing before we kind of exit or move towards the concluding part, I'd like you to share actually not one, two things. One is how and where can the listeners and viewers find you and Toy Room, and the second thing is like any one advice that you want to give to viewers or listeners who might be interested in this space to either buy the products or be interested in this space to start their own enterprise. What is it that you'd like to kind of uh, share as a takeaway or one advice? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So, taking your first question, I have a website. It's called toyroom.in. You could access the entire range on the website, and it's all available there. Apart from that, we also sell on a lot of local platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, Hopscotch, FirstCry. We're available on most, child-focused platforms, Nestry as well. So those are other spaces if you're interested in buying from there. But otherwise, I think my website's great also. And so yeah, that's where you can find Toy Room. Currently, we're not available physically anywhere but in Bangalore in the Go Native store. So that's the only place we're available right now. And your second question being somebody who wants to venture into a similar space of in business, I'd say that's great. Like, I really encourage new businesses entering into this space, because it's like educating customers more about this space more than looking at it as competition. Um, I'd say that if and when you do find vendors, because vendors are common across, typically there are very few people who will be making wooden toys, so they'll typically be common. They'll try to push to you products that exist that they're making currently, but I somehow feel that doesn't make sense. So try and bring in your own fresh thought, your own design, because those are the ones that sell the best. Like for me also, the ones which are like extremely unique and the ones that I've really spent a lot of time thinking about, those are the ones that do extremely well. So that would be one insight that I'd love to share.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This was absolutely
You're most
insightful.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ruchi.
Thanks so much,
Um,
Zitin.
thank you so much for being there on the show, and it was wonderful to have you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm hoping hoping that viewers and listeners will find value in
Thank you
you,
so much, Zitin.
your thought behind starting Toy Room, the toys when they kind of buy it, or if they've already bought some. And if they've
Right.
bought them and they've not shared it in their friends or their network, I'm sure they will now. So, yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you so much, Zitin. It was so nice speaking with you. It's really lovely talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for being there on the show. Thanks. Take
Thanks.
care.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. And if you liked this podcast, feel free to share it in your network. My one takeaway, well, there were many takeaways from this episode, but I think my top takeaway was if you're supporting a small business, the least you can do is just share a word of mouth in your network so that, if you like their products and their services, it'll really make a difference. I would love to hear your takeaway from this episode. Do share it with me on my socials. I'm available on at Zitin Munshi. That's at ZITINMUNSHI. Thank you so much for listening and viewing, and take care. Yeah, see you next time. Bye.